You've got BlackRock, but you've got MGX, which is Mubadala's AI investment company, part of that sovereign wealth fund focus on AI. But you've got Microsoft in the mix. You've got NVIDIA in the mix. You've got XAI in the mix. Basically, anyone who likes financing data centers or needs access to data centers or has some GPUs to put inside data centers seemingly wanted in on what was a $100 billion get-together pool of capital. And this is their first chunk of change, $40 billion being committed to align data centers. It's over in Texas. And this was actually owned by Macquarie, a big Australian infrastructure player. And they are now managing to sell off. It's a huge campus. You're thinking about operating in US and indeed in South America aligned. They've got 50 campuses, they've got 78 data centers. But all of this is as we seem to have insatiable demand for compute and therefore values go skyrocketing.
So your tech beat, Caroline, is always front and center for this market. It's even more so, certainly the last 2 years with AI. It's even more so in the last 2 weeks with a lot of these circular deals that are being referred to circular deals, where people are investing in each other's companies and things like that. And the dollar amounts are so huge.
I know.
Are your sources, are they saying this feels a little frothy? What are your sources telling you?
I think a lot of people are starting to put the word bubble in the context of AI and infrastructure right now. Look, you even had the CFO of Citigroup yesterday talking about his anxiety when it comes to potential frothiness in the AI market. You've had the Global Managers Survey coming from Bank of America yesterday, the most we've ever seen in terms of majority thinking that these AI players are too highly valued. So certainly the circularity gives people pause. We had a great fund manager on just yesterday really saying, look, even though they think NVIDIA is a bet, even though today HSBC has raised the price target on NVIDIA to maybe putting this at an $8 trillion company in the next 12 months, but people do have pause when they're putting $100 billion in equity investment into OpenAI. Basically so that OpenAI can keep buying its own GPUs.
Yeah.
You see that happening over in Europe. Another key player that we've got to keep an eye on is Nscale. There's currently an private AI data center builder out. I might add they've never built one single AI data center, but they were a crypto miner that's pivoted. And now they're committing to doing 4 data center projects with Microsoft. But Nscale, of course, got the anointment from Jensen when he went over to London saying, I want to back you in my equity. Because guess what? 2,000 GPUs are going to be offered in those 4 projects to Microsoft. So it just keeps on being this idea that ultimately, where are we getting the money from? At the moment, build it and they will come is the mentality. We need the infrastructure before you can really get the productivity gains. So NVIDIA is putting its cash to work.
Okay, so circular funding and yet another example of that. So what I'm confused about is how some companies that had indicated things would be kind of rough just a few months ago have now turned around and are seeing a completely different tune. ASML, which is a Dutch semiconductor equipment maker, had warned that the trade war, the tariffs on China was going to be hurtful to its business. Now it's completely turned around and said, you know what, demand is great.
Maybe they'll be able to eke out growth in 2026. I think it's also our expectations for ASML came down some. If you're looking at a quarter-on-quarter basis, the sales and the bookings fell. It's because China is so outsized in their revenue stream, and China's going to start dialing back in 2026 because of the geopolitical issues and the fact that the US is asking its neighbors and allies to stop allowing such semiconductor equipment into the nation. And you just had the House China Committee saying once again we're worried about ASML, but also KLA and some of the other US players. So I think that we are seeing, yes, ASML managing to calm anxiety, that they will still see growth from other pockets for these EUV. This is extreme ultraviolet lithography. They're the only people that make this particular sophisticated equipment that is making your leading edge chips that are going to be fueling our AI consumption. So if they're the only player, well, they've got really a sort of a built-in demand pool, but China is going to be dialing back, and the market wanted to hear that others were going to step in. And it seems as though they are going to.